What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Street Parking Podcast. We've got another episode with one of our incredible members who's here with us to film a vault workout. He has not done his vault workout yet, so he's still very relaxed, okay? But I'm here today with Michael Keegan, better known as Keegs, so I'll refer to you as Keegs from now on. He is a police officer from Ohio. He's a dad and somebody with a pretty cool weight loss story, and super pumped to talk to you because, you know, you're this big, strong guy. Sometimes. And a police officer, and what you do is so important that I think, you know, a lot of people are going to be super pumped to hear your story. So welcome to our office.
Thanks for having me. This is awesome.
Yeah. So, okay. So first and foremost, you're a dad.
Yes.
You have a daughter who's
8.
And her name is Callie?
Callie, yeah.
Awesome.
A little Callie girl.
Awesome. And police officer.
Yes.
How long have you been in law enforcement?
Coming on 5 years in June.
Okay, so it's still kind of new.
Yeah, pretty new.
Okay, and you're in what part of Ohio do you live?
Central Ohio. I live in Ashland.
Okay. And before you were in law enforcement, what were you doing before that?
I was a bouncer.
What?
Was a bouncer.
This is not in my notes. This is a whole new podcast now.
Yeah.
Where were you? Were you working like at a club?
Various bars and clubs in San
If you're
Diego.
listening to just the audio of this, it makes total sense. If you can't see Keegs and you haven't seen him yet in any of the stuff that we've put out, he's a big guy. So that makes total sense. Okay, so I didn't even hear your answer. Where were you a bouncer?
San Diego.
At what kind of places?
Sports bars.
Okay.
Country bar, country club.
And how long did you do that for?
About 8 years. I think 7, 8 years.
How do you get into bouncing? What's the process for interviewing, and like how do they test your bouncing abilities? So what kind of
it's a funny story
references did you have to have for that?
I was looking for a job shortly after college, and I was just going through Keegs, and I saw someone was looking for a door guy at like a little dive bar, and I was like, I'll try it, whatever.
Right.
I go in and sit down. He's like, do you have any experience bouncing? I said, no. Have any experience with, working in a bar, any of this? I said, no. I said, played rugby in college.
I was going to ask.
I've been knocked out a couple times, knocked down, and I don't have any fear of getting punched in the face. So he's like, all right, we'll try it.
You didn't have to bounce somebody in your interview. They didn't have somebody try to break into the interview room and you had to throw them out?
No, no.
I was going to ask, did you play football or rugby or anything like that?
Just rugby. Yeah.
To me, rugby is more hardcore than football. I might have offended a lot of people by just saying that, but I think so. That's really cool. Did you play rugby throughout like high school? Did you go further than that? What was your experience with rugby?
Just in college. So growing up, I wanted to play football, and parents wouldn't let me because they didn't want me to get hurt, which is probably better.
I mean, yeah.
So as soon as I got to college, the rugby team came and said, hey, you should come play with us. It was a club sport. I mean, a school team, but it was a club sport. You guys were paying all the, yeah. And I was like, heck yeah. I called my parents and said, hey, I'm going to play rugby. Click.
Okay, bye.
Yeah. And it was fun. I mean, it was fun. It was way more fun probably than I would have had doing football.
Were you athletic and stuff like that before that? Like what were you doing in high school, or was rugby your first sport?
I played basketball a lot.
Okay.
Growing up with the family, just after, work, my dad would come home, we'd play for half hour. My uncles played a lot. We'd play for hours when we had family get-togethers. And then like rec leagues, soccer, rec leagues, a little bit of mountain biking and stuff like that.
Do you have any funny or fun bouncer stories that you can share with us? I'm sure you have a lot.
I have a lot. I don't know many that I could share. I mean, I guess the funny parts were like kicking somebody out. And
did you enjoy doing that?
Yeah, I guess sometimes. I mean, sometimes I didn't because it took a long time, or it ended up getting physical, and it's not really fun. People give us problems. I'm like, look, I just want to be here and get paid and not have to do anything physical. Right. But it was always funny when you kick somebody out and it'd be a big ordeal, and then the next day they'd come by and be like, hey, I'm really sorry. I was being a jerk. I was like, well, that's a good thing. I can get someone to come back, for one, and two, also apologize.
Have you ever been kicked out of a bar?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. But not just for being too drunk, I'm sure. nothing terrible.
So you've been on both sides. So you can sympathize
100%
with the people. I feel bad for the bouncer that had to try to kick you out, though, unless you were just fine. That's fine. I'll leave.
Usually I was fine. Like, I mean, it's my friends. They'd be like, hey, it's time to go. I'm like, no. It's time to go. I'm like, okay. And then I'd leave.
Okay. So at least you've been on both sides of it.
Yeah.
And then, so you were doing that. And then did you start working for law enforcement in Ohio, or were you still in San Diego when you made the switch?
So we're in San Diego, and I was applying to San Diego PD. My wife decided she wanted to move home and wanted to be closer to her family. I was like, that's fine. I don't have family in California anymore. So I applied to out in Ohio.
Your wife's from Ohio?
Yeah, she's from Ashland area.
Okay.
And so I applied to a department out there and got it.
Wow.
And then the rest is history.
And this was what, like 2018?
2018 is when I started in June. Yeah.
What was it that drew you to that profession?
I've always had a calling towards it. I've always wanted to do it. When I was younger, like my early 20s, I decided to do it. And I told my family, and they weren't 100% behind me. So I didn't feel like pursuing it because I wanted to have the support of family and friends and stuff so that I could lean on them if I needed to. And so
what
I waited.
Was it about it? Were they worried about that it's dangerous, or what was it about it that they didn't like?
I think they were just worried about my safety. Right. And I was young. I mean, I was 21. Looking back now, it's probably a good thing I didn't.
There's a maturity level.
Yeah, I was not mature at all at 21, 22.
You were still getting kicked out of bars.
I'm still getting, I'm still growing up. So I waited and then applied 2018. I got in and started. It's been great. I love it.
You do love it. I was going to ask
100%.
you, how's your experience been with it so far?
It's been great.
Are you in a bigger city, or are you more in a small?
Big city.
Okay.
Yeah. But I like it, and I like the guys I work with.
That's good.
Which I think is really important. If you have the right group of people around you in any profession, it makes a huge difference.
What is it, obviously, other than the people that you work with, what is it that you love about it?
The possibility of helping somebody, you know, and whether it's helping someone in that moment where they need your help, in that night or that minute, that hour, whatever, or potentially helping someone change their lives, see that they're doing something wrong, or even if they're not. Like, we get calls for people that are having, you know, mental health issues or medical issues or whatever, just problems with their neighbors, stuff like that. It's not always criminal. And just being able to go out there and mediate and kind of give people some tools that they might not otherwise have for whatever reason, and hopefully not have to go out there and deal with them again. So just being able to help someone change, I guess. Yeah,
I mean, I think that's really great to hear, because I know, I imagine that being a police officer, I would say the last few years has seemed more like a more difficult profession. So that's good to hear that you love it and that you feel like you're out there helping and doing good, and that people are responsive to that, because I think that's so important for people to hear. I love, I always try to, whenever I see a police officer, go and thank them, and even if it's cheesy or whatever, because I think that's so important for you guys to hear, is that you're so appreciated.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I work third shift, so I don't see as many people during my hours, but we still get people saying, hey, thanks for what you're doing, or sorry we had to call you out here, or whatever. It's not all negative as much as it seems sometimes.
As the Instagrams will tell you.
Yeah, but I'm sure in a day shift is a different story, because you get people, there's way more people out there, some more interactions.
Well, you brought it up already. So your third shift, because I think that, one of the questions that I asked all of you guys before you came in was, what's your kind of like fitness routine? What's your schedule? When do you work out? All of that kind of stuff. And what I noticed with yours, because I was confused at first when I read it, was that you wake up, brush your teeth, then you go to the gym. But then it seemed like the next thing that you did was pick up your kids from school. So I put 2 and 2 together and realized, like, oh, he's waking up later in the day. So third shift, what does that mean? What are your hours for work?
So I work 11 p.m. to 7 a.m.
Okay.
I leave for work at like 9:30. So I'm gone from like 9:30 p.m. to about 8:15 a.m.
Okay.
So I come home, try to go to sleep right away, which usually sleep by 8:30, 8:45. Wake up at 1, get a workout in, and then have like family time for a few hours before I have to go back to sleep.
How long have you been on the like overnight shift?
The whole time.
The whole
career so far, yeah. Except for the academy. Academy was first shift hours.
Because I know whether it's a police officer, firefighters, nurses, we have a lot of members because of strange schedules that end up with street parking.
Mm-hmm.
And we get people that ask us questions about that so much. Like, how do I schedule my food? How do I schedule my fitness? Like, I don't sleep when most people sleep. And there are some hurdles with that. What have you found was the hardest when transitioning from normal, you sleep at night, to now for 5 years you've been doing this night shift? What was the hardest thing for you when you had to make that change?
I think right now, and it's always been, is the nutrition. It's finding the best time to eat, whether I'm trying to eat less or if I'm eating too much or not enough or whatnot. The sleep has never been an issue for me. I've always gone off of minimal sleep. Just
how many hours do you sleep now?
Total, usually about 4 to 6 a night, or 5 to 7, we'll say.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's 2 blocks usually, and then on my days off, I'll sleep 6 to 8. at night.
Okay.
But it's the nutrition for me that's the hardest thing, is trying to figure out the right times to eat so I'm not hungry at a certain time or full or whatnot.
Yeah, because one of the suggestions that usually I make, and I've never worked a night shift, I've traveled enough in different time zones that I know what that feels like. But if you wake up at 1 p.m., sure, it's 1 p.m., but technically it's just when you woke up. So I always suggest people like, yeah, eat breakfast, and it doesn't have to be breakfast foods if that's not what you want or whatever, but your 24 hours is your 24 hours. It might look different than someone else's 24 hours, but still just map it out like a regular 24 hour. Don't feel like, oh, well, it's 7 p.m. so I have to eat dinner foods. It's like, no, you can eat your oatmeal meal then if that's your breakfast, whatever, So okay, let's go back to, you said you wake up, brush your teeth, and go to the gym. Where do you train?
I usually go to the local gym, the YMCA.
Okay, I love that. So you typically aren't, or do you ever work out at home, or are you a gym goer?
When it's warmer out, I'll work out in the garage when it's hot.
Okay.
But in the middle of winter, it's pretty cold.
It's cold in
I was like,
Ohio.
I'll just go to the gym. It's easier that way.
Okay, so you do a lot of your street parking workouts at a regular gym.
Mm-hmm.
How does that work out for you? Because we don't get to ask questions. I think you might be our first member here who works out at a gym as opposed to at their home. So talk a little bit about that.
It works out well. I mean, it's a smaller town, so there's not a lot of people at the gym anyways. And I go in kind of after lunch rush, so it's even slower. So there's maybe 4 or 5 people there.
Okay.
It's usually an older crowd, and so they're not using the same things I am. So I kind of have my own space. A lot of times there's nobody there too.
So if you're going to be hitting like some devil press and box jumps, is the gym set up for that?
Yeah.
Cool.
So they just did a remodel, and they have a bunch of Rogue equipment, have Rogue dumbbells and kettlebells and stuff, and a couple racks. But there's plenty of space for me to go in and get it done. And
have the gym owners or any of the people that work there ever given you a hard time for like going for it in a workout?
No. Because
I know what we see is a lot of people are worried about going full send on a workout in a gym like that. when I started CrossFit, I started in a gym like that. And it was way weirder back then to see somebody doing that. It was like 2007. And I was trying to do a thruster pull-up workout. And I was just like going for, I think I threw up like in the aerobics room, like right afterwards. But back then it was weird, and people would give you a hard time, or they would you would be doing your thrusters and all of a sudden some dude would come up and start using your pull-up bar because he didn't realize like you were in the middle of something. But I still did it, and people got used to it, and now it's popular. But what would you say to people that are like, well, I don't have space for a home gym, or I want to use my regular gym that I have a membership to, but I'm uncomfortable doing these like higher intensity workouts at a gym?
I just say just do it. I mean, I started going to the Y in 2017, 2018. And I sort of just kind of would stay out of the way because I don't want to intimidate people or make people feel uncomfortable. And I'm like,
no one's going to say anything to you.
And grunting and whatever. I don't want people to stop coming, at the same time I'm coming.
Right.
So I just kind of started doing the workouts out of the way. And then after a while, people will say, hey, what are you doing? What kind of workout is this? Or they'll just tell me good job. And
I would say that's like a reaction more than people being annoyed. Is they're like, hey man, like what's this? Mm-hmm. What's the program are you following? They're more intrigued by it.
Yeah.
And they want to know what it is.
Yeah. And then after years, it's kind of on the flip side. So if I see someone coming in that looks like they might be starting out or unsure, or they look self-conscious, you can get that feeling. Mm-hmm. I've been there before.
Yeah.
I always say, hey, good job, or we'll see you tomorrow. Like keep doing the work.
Building a little community there where they're like, oh, someone recognized me, and now they're going to be wondering what happened to me if I don't show up. Yeah. Do any of your other, like your fellow officers work out with you? One
of them doesn't work out with me, but he just started street parking about a month or maybe 2 months ago. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Has he been complaining about it
yet?
He
likes it a lot.
Are the rest of the officers that you work with participating in fitness like in general, or everybody does a pretty good job? Yeah, they're pretty active, I would say. What are the requirements for, and it's probably different depending on where you live, but what are the requirements for you guys as far as physical fitness? Like how often is that tested? Is it tested? Obviously in the academy it was, I'm sure. Yeah, so just when you're in the academy it's tested and you have to adhere to standards. And then after that there's no test or standard. We have to do a physical fitness test every year, but it's not a pass fail. It's just to see where you're at, and that's it. Which is kind of surprising. Do you think it should be more? I feel like it should be more. Yeah, I think the Highway Patrol, they have to adhere to a standard every year, and they get tested every year. So
that's obviously above my pay grade, so I don't question it. I just try to stay healthy for myself.
Right.
But yeah, I think it should be some sort of fitness level that you have to achieve every year.
Is what you do for your job a big part of your why behind why you train?
I wouldn't say majority. I think the biggest part of my why is my family and just trying to be healthy and be alive for a long time, be able to run with my kid and play with her, pick her up if I need to, just with one hand.
Right.
But also for the job is to be able to do the same thing for my partners, my friends.
Exactly. Yes.
Be able to help them or help, a citizen or whatever, help myself, because you never know.
Yeah. I would imagine that the comfort level, if your, partner is super fit and strong with like, okay, if something happens, this guy's going to be able to carry me out of here or like, run and get away. Or I don't know.
And I think too, just being fit, being
confidence
makes you more confident.
Yes.
And then you have more presence when you're standing, talking to someone, and just that and being able to communicate, and whether it's visually communicate or whatever, body language, makes things a lot smoother 9 times out of 10, I would say.
I feel like it might also decrease the likelihood of panic because you're confident in yourself and your ability. So you're less likely to freak out in situations when you're
I think so.
Fit.
Yeah.
And I'm just not talking just about police officers, but like in general. I know I, as a human, actually as a woman, one of the things, and I've said this in other podcasts, I like that I look fit because I feel like I'm less of a target.
Yeah.
And I walk with confidence and my eyes are up and I'll make eye contact with people. And, I have a more muscular build. And it just, to me, I feel safer, not 100% immune to anything for sure at all, but I feel safer and I'm confident that from most people, I could probably run away. Yeah. And I think that there's something to that no matter who you are in your life, that can benefit you and just make you a more confident person. So I can imagine as a police officer, it's even more. Or, I'm confident that I could, in many situations, grab my kids and run with them, if I needed to. And all of that is, it's unfortunate that people need to think that way, but it's just reality.
Yeah.
And it's a big why for a lot of parents and women who train, I know, is to feel that way. So that's really cool. I wanted, you kind of hinted at it before that you lost a bunch of weight.
Yeah.
I want to read, I think I have a quote from you about it that I wanted to read, and then you can kind of like expand on it. So this is from an email exchange from before you came out here. I used to weigh over 300 pounds and I couldn't tie my shoe in one breath. My wife said she'd run with me and I decided one step at a time I would do it. First, it was just a 30-second jog, then walk. Gradually, I got to where I enjoyed running and I dropped down to 230 pounds when preparing for the academy and managed to get my mile time under 7 minutes. So how long ago was it that whole story happened?
So we started running. This is kind of when I was getting serious about joining any police department. I was like, well, I obviously need to lose some weight and get in better shape. So it was probably around 2015, maybe 14. It was right before our daughter was born. And that's when I slowly started to run more, clean up my diet a little bit with huge help from my wife. She would start making better meals for me and help me make better choices. And then once we moved out here and I was further along in the process for the police department, they're like, okay, you're probably going to start in June of 2018. It's like, okay, I really need to dial it in. And then I just decided to go 100%, just practice running. But I never did long distance running. I would just do like a mile at a time,
right,
as fast as I could, or just, do it a little bit slower and then the next day do it faster.
Well, I imagine your pain tolerance was pretty high because you're a rugby player.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
I feel like, so you played rugby in college.
Mm-hmm.
What happened after that, fitness wise? Like, were you working out and were inconsistent and your diet wasn't good and so you gained a bunch of weight? Or what happened in between rugby and then I was 300 pounds and I started running story?
So I was always working out and lifting, but it was more like bodybuilding type lifting.
Okay.
And then I was like, well, I want to see how strong I can get or how big I can get.
Okay, of course.
I didn't really reach out or find any good guidance. I was just like, I'll just eat a lot and I'll just lift a lot.
This is like the classic dude in his 20s.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Total meathead. And I got pretty strong and I also gained a lot of weight and I was like, at some point I was like, well, this isn't really beneficial to my life. Like if I can't tie my shoe without taking
So you
a
were
break.
never inactive. You were never like, oh, I just stopped working out completely.
No, I was just lifting. I play sports still a little bit here, but as you get heavier, it's harder to play sports. So I stopped playing sports a little bit. Just would lift, and I do cardio, on the machines at the gym for 20 minutes.
Yeah, nice.
And then decided to, go towards law enforcement. I was like, well, I can't do it this way. So I have to dial it in.
I think people are probably, who are listening, are wanting to know, what were the nutrition changes? Like, what were the changes that your wife helped you with? Because a lot of people don't know where to start.
Stopped eating out.
Period.
Yeah,
if you just do that and you eat out a lot.
Back, maybe not
that's a lot.
Completely, but a lot. Stopped eating out.
Where were your go-to? First of all, people want to know when you say eating out, what is it? Are we talking Taco Bell or are we talking about Chipotle? Because there's like a range. Where were your go-to spots?
So like local Mexican food in Southern California, like burrito spots.
Okay.
In-N-Out, burger places.
All the California spots.
Yeah, all the California spots.
Okay. So for the most part, stopped eating out. How often were you eating out?
Oh, all the time.
Every day?
Yeah, working in the bar industry, we're eating
more than once a day? Or
just
for so like lunch, dinner?
Yeah, for sure. Even breakfast probably.
Whew.
Yeah.
You know who else used to be like that? Julian.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I had to help him with it. He was training so much because he was competing that he got away with it, but his nutrition was terrible when we met. So shout out to all the wives who helped their shout out to all the spouses who had to help their significant other. Okay, so stopped eating out as much. What else?
Started eating like salads, a lot of vegetables.
How was that? Was that new for you?
No, growing up we ate relatively healthy food. I think I've always been a bigger guy, and I think just the amount of food I've always ate was probably more than I needed. So I cut back on the volume of food, and we just eat more veggies, home cooked, meals, proteins.
What's your heritage? Where are you from? Like your
Mexican.
Family? Okay, you're Mexican. Okay, cool.
I just got really big.
The food is huge in that culture.
Yeah, well, growing up, I'm adopted, so my family's from.
But it's still in
Irish
you. When you found the Mexican food in SoCal,
I still like
it. Was like home.
It's carne asada fries, carne asada burritos, California burritos, all that stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, even growing up, we were relatively healthy. We had salads, we had chicken, a lot of pasta. When you have 3 kids running around, you just make some pasta and eat.
Yes.
But I think the biggest thing for me was just eating too much growing up.
Okay.
And then just carried over to my adult life. But then with my wife's help, started cutting back and just making healthier choices, really.
Did you go to her or did she come to you? One of the struggles that we see on the Facebook group a lot is one or the other spouse is trying to do better with their food, or they have good habits with their food and their fitness, but they're in a relationship with somebody who isn't. And, usually the advice is like, you can't push it too much on this person because they're just not going to be receptive. Like you just have to kind of lead by example and let that person come to you eventually. Is that what happened with you guys? Or did she be like, Keegs, we gotta clean it up? How did that all come out?
I think it was more, I was like, hey, I want to be a police officer, but I need to do this. She's like, I'll help you.
Okay.
And we just kind of,
so she didn't come and like, yo, you need to lose some weight.
No.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. And so less eating out. Was it hard for you, those changes?
It wasn't too bad. I was still eating out here and there, so it's not like I just cut it out completely.
Okay.
But then when I really got even more dialed in before the academy, I eliminated all like fast food. I was just eating probably not enough. And so I dropped even more weight. And so I put it back on, some of it back on since academy, and just, be more sedentary, driving around and patrol and whatnot, and then not sleeping. So
yeah, the sleep is a big one.
Now I'm trying to get back to find that balance where I can drop a little bit more weight, but still maintain like my level of fitness. And I don't know, I'm just trying to balance it all out again, I guess. Yeah.
Aside from the obvious weight loss, what were some of the other things that improved, if anything, when you lost that weight and when you started cleaning up your eating?
It's quality of life. I just felt better.
In what way? Like give some examples, because I think sometimes people they think it's just an aesthetic thing, which is so not true. Like there's so much more to it than that. So like give some examples of how your quality of life improved?
And more energy. I mean, I definitely feel I have less energy now than I did right before the academy because I was lighter. I was eating the proper foods. I had more, proper fuel coming to my body. So I was, even with minimal sleep, I felt great, and I tried intermittent fasting and it worked for me. I mean, I would work out on an empty stomach, do my day. I'd eat my first meal at like 2 p.m. I felt fine.
And what does your nutrition look like now? Like, how did you figure out your schedule? So, okay, so you wake up at what time?
1
o'clock, 1 p.m.
Yeah.
And then go through like a day, a 24-hour period with us.
It varies. I mean, I'm still working on it,
okay.
I guess, yeah.
What would you like it to be?
So I guess I'm trying to figure out how often I need to eat for myself. So like I'll work out, then I'll eat usually around 3, whether I'm in line.
What will you eat at that time?
Like eggs.
Okay.
Eggs and some toast or like a breakfast sandwich type of thing. Yeah, like toast with eggs and cheese. And then I'll do family stuff, homework with my daughter, just hang out, help out around the house. And then I go back to sleep around 5 or 6. So I don't eat dinner with the family usually because I need some sleep. Then I wake up at 9 and get ready and go straight to work. So I don't eat again until 2:30. And I'm trying to find out what works for me in the middle of the night as far as eating, whether it's a big meal or a smaller meal to keep me going for the rest of my shift.
Do you take food with you or do you usually eat out still for that meal?
I usually eat out still. Okay. I've been trying to take food a little bit more.
You got to prep it. It's harder. It requires more planning for sure.
And that's the thing, is that I don't want to make my wife feel like she's got to prep food for me every week because I'm trying to sleep. I'm trying to do family stuff. So I got to make myself do it before I go back to sleep. And it's just finding that schedule. For me, I like to have a routine and be structured.
Same.
So finding that 20 minutes or half hour to put a meal together, put it in the fridge, and then go to bed. I just got to work on being consistent with that.
So the reason that you do the 2 different sleep windows is so that you can spend time with your child, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you would, right, of course. Because otherwise you would sleep right through the day until like if you woke up at 8 p.m., your 8-year-old's getting ready to go to bed.
Yeah. And I mean, I could
you
sleep.
miss out on all of it.
I could sleep like 9 to 5 or 9 to 4, but I'd only be with him for a couple of hours and then have to go back to work. So.
And I think, like I'm asking you this stuff about your food and everything, but it's not, I don't expect your answer to be perfect. Like you're not like, we didn't invite you here for the vault because you're the fittest, one of the people in our community that has it all figured out, like at all. I think it's more interesting for people to hear like, there are all these other people out there who are just trying to figure it out like I am. And what I think is really cool is that you make no excuses about it. It's just like, I still got to figure it out. I'm still figuring it, because there's never going to be, I've figured it out and never again am I going to have to think about it, because our lives change and like seasons change and jobs change and life is different when your kids are really little versus when they're older and all of that stuff. And so it's constantly just figuring it out. And I think that's really cool for people to hear that nobody has all the answers and is out there doing it perfectly,
100%.
The ideal is just not giving up and being like, oh, well, I do the night shift, so it's impossible. So I'm just going to go back to doing what I was doing before, which is eating out for every single meal and forget it. It would be so much easier for you to not work out or only work out on the weekends, or to sleep right through that 1 o'clock wake up time where that's your window to go work out, but you're not doing that. And obviously 2 sleep windows is not ideal, but you know that fitness is important to you. And your family is important to you. And so you make it work and you make it happen, and everybody's got their different circumstances that they're dealing with. Right.
And so, if I don't get the workout in, I can tell.
Do you get cranky?
I would say cranky. I don't know if it's going to make an excuse and say no, but I'm a little more short-tempered, or not short-tempered, but not as patient. So I know that for me, it's part of my mental health. Maintenance
100%.
is go to the gym and get whatever's, might be on my mind, even if I don't know what's on my mind, get it out, come home, clear head, family time, help out around the house time.
It really is. I was talking to Silver, who I don't know if her workout comes out before or after yours. So maybe you guys have already heard that interview or maybe not. But she's a therapist, and we talked about that in depth, like how important movement and actually nutrition all of that, how all of that's tied so heavily to mental health, and people don't make that connection. Most people don't make that connection. Most people, fitness is just to lose weight or to not gain weight. Like that's the only reason that anyone would ever participate in fitness. And it's so like far down on the list of benefits, with mental health being one of the top things. And I think it's so important because everybody's life has some level of stress and anxiety and all of this. And it's just, if you're not consistent with it, I just don't think that you know how much of a difference it can make.
Yeah.
For sure. I have another one of your quotes that I wanted to read because I really liked it. We asked everybody, is there a specific group of people that you would like to reach in your podcast episode? Because it's always interesting. Like we can assume maybe he wants to talk specifically to cops. Maybe he wants to talk specifically to dads. But what you said is anyone that's timid or nervous about starting to work out or getting back into it after a long break. You wanted them to know that you support them and that you know that it's worth it. You don't have to do the workouts as written right off the bat and maybe even ever, but you have to do something. So this group of people that's like, I don't even know where to start. I'm not fit enough to exercise, which is a weird thing, but it's a very common, or I'm not fit. They see street parking, even the shift workouts, the no equipment workouts, and they're like, I'm not fit enough to do that. I need to do something else first. Why is that group so important to you?
Because I was there. You know, when I started running at 300, 305 pounds, again, it was 30 seconds of not even a run. It was like a fast walk or a jog and have to stop, catch my breath. And I was like, this is terrible. But, you know, having the support of my wife and friends too, like, so just keep doing it. Keep going one day at a time. Eventually, you know, I started running a minute, then a mile, then a couple miles. The longest I've ran is 9 miles.
Wow.
And it was at like an 8-minute pace at 230, 240
You're a big
pounds.
Dude.
Yeah.
That's so, a lot of...
You can do it. Anyone can do it if I can do it.
Wow. So. How did you get past, especially as somebody who was like a high level, like you played rugby, like that's a really tough sport. How did you get past the ego of, I can only run for 30 seconds?
I just do it. I mean, other than just, there's no other explanation. Just get 30 seconds and be done. And, you know,
I think a lot of people struggle with that, don't you? That they're like, especially former athletes that are nowhere near as fit as they used to be. Like they almost won't do it because it will be a reality check for how far off they are from where they used to be. Did you struggle with that at all?
Yeah, I mean,
for sure.
I was embarrassed for myself, but I think some of it was like I'd run and be like, okay, if I can run a little bit longer, people think I've been running a long time. And then when I walk, I'd be like, oh, just walk for a little bit longer. And they think you're just out for a walk. They don't know that you're having to take
so
a break.
You were actually thinking about like, what are my neighbors thinking?
A little bit, yeah. Or just anybody
100%.
driving by or, you know, whomever.
Okay.
But then after a while, you're like, oh, I just ran 5 minutes and I'm walking 30 seconds. And then I'm running 5.5 minutes. And all of a sudden you're running for a lot longer.
And you know what? A couple things. I think that exact thing that you just explained with like, well, if my neighbors see me running, they don't know. I could have been running for 10 minutes. Or if they see me walking, they think I'm just out for a walk. Like it is so interesting how our brains think that our neighbors, first of all, are like looking out the window and even care.
Yeah.
What I found, because obviously our neighbors think we're nuts and we moved in, most of our neighbors are older people. And when we moved, especially when we first moved in, there were way fewer families. We've been told, we've had them come over and tell us how inspiring we are to them, how much they love seeing us out there. And we've seen more of our neighbors start to do more fitness and things like that. So you're inspiring people is what you're doing. Even if you're super struggling, they might look at you and be like, oh man, like he's out there doing it. I can see he's hurting. I should be doing that too. And I think seeing people struggle is more inspiring than if you were like some amazing runner. It's like, well, there's the runner neighbor again. Like they don't relate to that at all. So you inspire people. And then I think people have that going back to people being uncomfortable going to a gym and doing high intensity fitness. They'll have those same feelings. Like, what if people are watching me and they see like that I'm really struggling and that I'm dying. I'm taking these really long breaks. Number one, nobody at the gym is ever thinking that. Anytime I've ever seen somebody really struggling at a gym, my very first thought is how awesome it is that they're there. Nobody's judging you. Everybody's just so pumped for you, actually, because people that are at the gym are already in that mindset
Yeah.
of how important it is for the most part. So everybody's just going to be pumped for you that you're there and inspired by you, because it's one thing to watch somebody who's amazing. I think it's way more inspirational to watch somebody really fight for it.
Yeah.
And so for the most part, everybody's worried about themselves at the gym and how they look. But if anybody is ever looking at you or watching you and you're struggling, they're thinking how awesome it is that you're there and that you're doing it. So I think, I love that you wanted to encourage those people and let them know that you specifically, like Keegs, supports you.
Yeah,
so
100%.
if you don't have a support system, because it sounds like you've always had a pretty good support system, not everybody has that. A lot of people's spouses are like, whatever, no, you can go do fitness. I don't want to do it. Or you can change your food. I'm going to stay with what I like, and I don't want to change anything. And it's tough because they don't have that support system. I think that's why the Facebook group and all of that stuff can be super helpful as well. You joined street parking in 2019. So you were already in the academy, or you were already a police officer. How did you find street parking?
I think Instagram. I think I saw it on Instagram. I think I followed you maybe before that on Instagram.
Did you ever do CrossFit?
I did for about 6 months, I think.
At an actual gym?
At an affiliate,
okay.
Yeah. And it was to help finish getting ready for the academy. I really wanted to work on my push-ups and sit-ups. And so I was like, I'll do CrossFit. That'll help me.
Okay.
It was the middle of winter, or part of it was winter. So I wasn't outside running. So just doing like the high intensity movements helped. Because then once the weather got better and I started running again, I was like, holy shit. I'm running way better than I was a couple months ago, and I hadn't even run 2 miles in any given time over the winter or whatever. And
then, so you found us just randomly like a scrolling through Instagram? You didn't know anybody that did street parking?
No.
Nobody told you about it?
Mm-mm.
Dang.
Yeah, I just
Do you remember what the post was? Because I'll post it again.
I don't remember it. But I remember maybe it was just a workout or something. I looked at it, I was like,
that's cool.
This looks fun. And then finding out that it's all programmed and you just go on and find the workout, and there's different versions of it. I was like, this is great. Even if I don't do it a lot, it's something to have in my back pocket where I can, if I don't know what I'm going to do with it that day, I can just pull that out and do it. And now I do it exclusively. Okay, yeah.
So do you do mostly the daily workouts, or what's your kind of go-to with the programs?
So I'll do the vault, and then I'll do daily. And then now that you guys have the 5-3-1 programs, I'm doing bench and deadlift.
Cool.
So
have you ever done any of the running endurance programs?
I started endurance on the assault bike last year. Yeah, I liked it. I did the assault wave program or whatever, the bike wave program.
Okay, nice.
Loved it.
Great.
I love the bike. It's terrible, but I love it. And then I did the rowing program. It was past December.
You had a knee injury.
Yes.
Was that before or after you tore your meniscus?
Yeah, I tore meniscus.
Was that before or after all this running, or during?
It was during. It was in the academy. So we were doing a lot of running. It was like the second week of the academy. We're doing a bunch of sprints and running. Just, like on the front end of the academy is a lot of physical fitness. And then on the back end, it's more classroom work and stuff.
Okay.
And we were just doing sprints.
You felt it?
And I felt it click and pop, and just couldn't bend it very well. And it's like, I think something's wrong.
You were telling me that you probably should have had surgery then, but then you would have had to pull out of the academy. So you just dealt with it.
Yeah. So I went to the doctor, and he's like, yeah, we could do surgery, but
recovery. You couldn't.
The problem is it's all regulated by the state, the academy. So if you miss X amount of hours and you can't make it up, then you can't finish the academy.
So would you have had to start all the way over?
Yeah. I mean, it was only the second week, but I would have had to wait 6 months and then hopefully get in the next academy class. And I was tired of waiting.
Does it give you, knee injuries are pretty common. I have one. I feel like many people, here's the truth. If you're 38, so I'm 2 years older than you, but I feel like if you make it to 40 years old and you're still alive, you're either going to have an injury from being out of shape, or you're going to have an injury from participating in sports and fitness. It might not be a knee, it might be a shoulder, it might be an elbow, but you don't get to go through life unscathed.
Yeah.
So you got to choose your path and just know that as you get older, these things pop up. But does it bother you now? I know you had surgery just recently, like last June.
It's better
like,
than
are
it was
you able
before.
to run the way that you used to run? And
not yet, but I think some of that is probably because I've gained some weight back. But
right.
I've started putting in the running in the program instead of doing program C. I've been doing some program A's or whatever, and it's feeling better. And I did one that was, I think it was like 400-meter runs for 4 rounds. I felt great. And it wasn't as fast as I used to be, but It felt
knee
sturdy.
was fine.
It didn't bother me. It was a little sore afterwards, but for the most part, I was like, this is good. Same with box jumps. I started putting those back in, and it's not as big of an issue anymore.
The people don't know your workout anymore, so I'm just gonna hint. He's got box jumps in his workout. I think that's good too, because I do think that another thing that stops people is they'll injure themselves and they're like, well, I can't run anymore, so I'm out. Or I can't work out anymore. I, as a trainer, because I've been in the fitness industry for whatever, 22 years now or whatever, I have people tell me on the airplane, like if I'm sitting next to them, all the reasons that they can't work out. Well, when I was in high school, I hurt my knee, and well, a couple of years ago, I had this shoulder thing, and everybody's got them. And it's tough because I get it, but also there really isn't a reason to stop moving. There's always something that you can do. So I love that you're like, haven't given up on running. Like it sounds like you're properly rehabbing it, but you're not like, well, I'm not going to be able to run again. And maybe you're not going to consistently run 9 miles all the time, but it's something that you enjoy and something that is beneficial for you. So you're going to keep doing it. That's awesome.
I think some of it too, you get, sometimes there's medical professionals say, hey, you'll never run again, or you'll never do this again.
Oh, I know.
And when you hear that from somebody of authority in whatever your problem is, and you're like, oh, well, I can't do it.
Right.
But I think you can, and you got to find, someone that's educated and has some of the answers. But like my physical therapist, he said, what do you want to do? I said, well, I need to be able to move for work.
Right.
And I want to be able to move for my life and for my kids. They're like, okay, so here's what we're going to work on. We're going to work on building strength for X amount of times. Then we're going to start working on mobility and endurance and then plyometric stuff.
Because the reality is, whether you train running or not, eventually at work, you're going to have to run. You're going to have to chase somebody or whatever. You're going to have to run to a situation. And the scariest thing would be in your mind, if you're like, I don't remember the last time I just took off running. But Julian and I talk about that all the time. We're like, how many adults could just sprint if they needed to? Like, when was the last time, like, we'll look at like, whatever, my parents, but they're very old, but it's like, when was the last time my mom just like took off, And obviously you do get to a certain age where like, it wouldn't be the best thing to sprint just cold for no reason. But as a parent, I need to be able to just take off on a sprint. Like if my kid books it into the street, or, something's going on and I need to grab him because he's in a dangerous situation. And all of these things, like, you got to train for it, or that's where you really mess yourself up. Yeah. And so I think I think people need to remember that do it in training so that you're confident, again, that you can do it in life if you need to. And that's the same for picking something up off the ground, or, squatting something, or putting something over you. Like, all of these things, you're going to end up doing them in your life. Yep. And if you don't, your quality of life is just like diminished so much. And for you, it's so true. Like, you could not run in your training, but you're going to end up running. Yeah. So you might as well.
And I think some of it too is, like I like to say, get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And whether it's, mental, physical, whatever, if you can get comfortable being in uncomfortable situations, when it comes, when you're not ready for it, it's not as scary. You're not, like we talked earlier, you're not going to freak out possibly, whatever it is, whether it's anxiety, or, you're trying to lift something or something falls on you and you have to save yourself, or whatever, something, even if it's something that's not life-threatening. If you've already had that experience or something close to it, you're less likely to freak out and not be able to handle the situation in front of you.
Do you have any stories that come to mind where you have used your fitness and been really grateful for the way that you train, whether that's as a dad or at work, that you can think of?
Nothing off the top of my head. Okay. Nothing that stands out. I mean, I'm
sure
just thankful I can move. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's a time we were playing, kick with my daughter when she was real little, and she starts going towards the street, and just being able to run over there and just grab her or whatever. But nothing Absolutely. That's like
and just the energy scary. Level to do that in the first place, to play.
Yeah.
And everything. Well, awesome. Well, we're super excited. I'm super excited to see your workout, because your workout has a fun little twist to it that people pumped. Are not going to be expecting. I'm excited to see which direction you go with it. And I think just your message of just go do it. Just, you were there, you were like, had to start so small, But it allowed you to have this profession that you love now, and you're helping people, and you're a great dad. And not that you wouldn't have been a great dad without it, but it's just brought so much more to your life just by gaining a little bit more control over your lifestyle.
Yep.
It's brought so much more to you. So that's awesome.
Yeah. One thing I like to put in my Instagram posts is put in the work, because if you put in the work every time, every day, or, every chance you get, you're going to see changes. You're going to see the benefits of it, regardless of if it's family life, work life. Yeah.
You said that More Than Nothing was one of your favorite parts of the street parking messaging.
Yeah.
So that all fits into, it's just go do something.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. And make sure you guys tune in to watch his workout, because it's one of my favorite ones. And you're all going to be able to choose your own adventure with that workout. And we'll see what Keegs decides to do. Awesome.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.